Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where we throw out the old blueprint so you can become who you were always meant to be. I'm your host, Jason Smith, and if you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this podcast with your friends on social media and tag me in it at JBirdFit. In this special episode of the Blueprint Podcast, I sat down in Nashville, Tennessee with performance coach, trauma specialist, and author of Unapologetic, Annalie Howling. What started as a casual walk quickly turned into one of the most powerful and emotionally honest conversations I've ever recorded. We talked about shame, how it shapes us, silences us, and sometimes steals our dreams. Annalie opened up about the truth behind her journey, what it means to live shamelessly, and why self-compassion, not perfection, is the key to breaking free from shame. If you've ever felt like you had to keep it all together or like your past disqualified you from the future you want, this episode is your permission to breathe, to speak, and to remember you're not broken. You're becoming who you were always meant to be. If you're watching, you'll notice two brief transitions in this episode where we paused as people passed during our walk. I added some visuals to keep the flow. We eventually found a quiet spot to sit down and finish the conversation uninterrupted. I came here this week to Nashville to meet up with content creator, author, and high performance coach, Annalie Howling. And here she is. Annalie and I are going to take a walk today. We're going to ask you guys to join us, and we're going to talk a little bit about shame as well as our experience here in Nashville. So come along. Why did you come to Nashville?
I'm coming to promote my book, Unapologetic, and had some shows to film, but also I wanted to meet you. And this became an amazing opportunity for us to have a proper conversation in person. And also, I think for both of us, unpick a bit of our own dreams, which we did yesterday.
Now, your book, Unapologetic, is all about shame. Really curious how shame impacted your dreams.
It impacted everything. Shame is this underlying limiting belief, this felt sense. It's hard to put into words, but it affects everything. And I felt that I was unworthy. So then you look at dreams or things you want to achieve, and there's just no way that you think that can't be for me, or even that it has to be really hard for me to get something. And then quite often you can end up self-sabotaging. Maybe you end up with behaviors or things that you're doing that don't really serve you because fundamentally you feel broken. And we're really ashamed of our shame as well. So we're fighting this battle all the time, trying to appear perfect and people please. Like we spoke about that so much. And then how does that show up in our relationships? Us connecting as we are and having these really deep conversations and just being like BS free. Like that is because we're speaking from a place outside of shame. But for years, I wouldn't have been able to do that with you.
Obviously, the types of conversations that you and I have been able to have has enabled me to confront some of my own shame and internal experiences to the degree that when we have these conversations, all of a sudden it's like, I'm 10 years old again. And so somebody who's going through that and they're in that place where they're interacting with people that are bringing up that shame for them that feels ancient, it feels like it's so far in your past, but now it's in the present moment. You thought you dealt with it or whatever the experience was, but now here you are. What do you tell that person that's going through that?
I love that you mentioned your 10-year-old self, and we talked about that last night, how both of us had that childlike sense of possibility again. Yeah. But for most of us, we are trapped in a childhood version of ourselves when we took on shame, when we started internalizing this messaging even about being a good girl, because obviously my authentic nature was not that, and I had to try and change myself and conform in some other way. And the same for you, different experiences that we had where we were isolated and maybe everyone doing the best they could with what they had, but it not being the right thing for us. So if somebody is feeling that, I'd say go back to that childhood version of yourself when you felt that you lost your dreams, when you felt that you couldn't have that anymore, when maybe life became harder or you felt that you were broken and that wasn't something that you could have anymore, almost where you lose that innocence. Shame takes your innocence. It takes away that sense of joy, and instead you're replaced with this sense of hiding this layer instead and conforming and becoming something you're not. And in doing so, we move away from our own dreams as well. It's so emotional us having this conversation actually, because we did go deep last night for both of us.
We did.
And I loved how you showed up as well in our conversations about so many things, both of us holding back in different ways and maybe even trying to in British English we say put a brave face on it. On the show yesterday talking about dry it up and not show your emotions, and actually when we let it all flood out, shame hasn't got anywhere to be in that room, and suddenly all of our dreams became available again.
Yeah. And what's interesting, that conversation impacted me so much that I went to get a piece of my dream back today, and it's things that I didn't think were available to me, or something that I really want to do, but I don't know how to get there. I don't know what the first step is. And I made a video about this where we have to wire in that experience. And so you have to put yourself in the rooms that you think that you don't belong in. You have to get around the people and network with them and allow yourself to have the conversations, even though on the inside, your 10-year-old is just trying to get out and it's screaming and you're struggling in the moment with the conversation. Did I say the right thing? Did I do the right thing? Was that stupid? Why did I do that? This is so ridiculous. I don't belong here. And we go through all these experiences, but yet at the same time, here I am. So there's got to be some value in the things that I've been doing and the way that I've been showing up, that now I get to be in these places.
Absolutely. Like, we're completely worthy of love exactly as we are, like flaws and scars and all. And I think that's the thing with shame, is when shame is out of your system, you're flooded with self-compassion instead. And that gives you that boost of energy. Today, you going out and recapturing a dream of a drawing that you told me you made about 10. And that drawing that you made that you still remember so clearly now, because that was obviously the pinnacle, that pin of your dream that your whole system remembers. But shame told you for coming up for 40 odd years that you couldn't have it because there was something wrong with you. And shame is a liar. I want people to know that shame is a liar.
It's funny because there's so many different pieces of our life, and the picture that she's talking about right now is something that I drew when I was much younger, and it was of a little house with a little dock on a little lake with a little boat and a dog to accompany me, a golden retriever. When I start thinking about that experience now, everything has kind of led me in that direction, and it's like it's written on your nervous system. You know that's the direction that you need to go. And even though there's been roadblocks along the way, I look at those roadblocks as experiences to learning and growth and expansion, and there's all these things that had to happen first in order to get to this place where I can begin to allow myself to then move forward. So what would you tell someone on how to live a shame-free or shameless life?
I absolutely now am very grateful, about to turn 44. And I feel, I've said this to you, like I have a completely new chapter, like I'm completely free, utterly shameless, and there's no shadow. And the thing I would say is, we know what our shame is. We know the thing we don't want someone to mention. We know the thing that we think is bad about us, or we're trying to hide, or we think we'll be rejected by someone else. If I tell you this, then I'm having financial issues. If I tell you that I'm having relationship troubles, if I tell you that actually I know I did this degree and I went all in for this qualification and my parents supported me, but actually I really hate being a lawyer, or whatever it might be. We know what the thing is because it's always just threatening under the surface. And that's when we're trying to do these like people pleasing and perfectionism. I would say the first step, honestly, and it's in the book with clients of mine and stories, just say the thing out loud to yourself. Let's just surface that safely within ourselves. And then if you're able to and you're ready to, find a wonderful friend that you trust. And again, you don't have to go all in all at once. I refer to it like a kettle. You've heard me say this a few times, just letting a bit of that steam out time by time and decompressing into that container in that relationship. And also allow someone to witness you. You gave me the gift of witnessing your whole self last night. And we were unlayering and unlayering there, and I was doing the same with you. But what a gift that was. It was incredible to do that. And our connection and our friendship, because of that, is so much deeper.
Yeah, and I think you really honed in on a really key component here, and it's having that one person that's available to you to witness you, not to fix you, not to change you, not to cultivate something new within you or to make you somehow different, but to just be present and allow you to say the things that you need to say in a way that you need to say it, that gives you that release. And so we've talked about the release of shame and how that manifests out of the body. Can you explain that to us further?
Yeah, shame really does live within your system. So when you've experienced any kind of trauma, which can also be something you've witnessed, by the way, it doesn't have to be something that happened to you, we can internalize limiting beliefs. And they're always I am bad, I am terrified, I'm out of control, I'm unsafe, I'm unworthy, I'm unlovable. And that can be from things like being sent to your room as a child and you're not really sure of why or what you did wrong. Or I have a lot of clients that are told to read in front of a class who it turns out later in life are neurodivergent or dyslexic and was shamed for that. I'm going to trigger warning this, but a lot of assaults that happen and we enter into a fawn trauma response and we don't know why we placate an aggressor rather than push them away and enter a fight response, because that wasn't the appropriate response that our body chose for us in that moment. But we carry the shame. Betrayal trauma, I do that all the time, and your audience will really relate to this. All the time I have people that they take on the shame from someone else's cruelty and intentional hurt. How could I have been so stupid? How did I not see it happen? Or I should have done more to keep them and keep them with me. And that's the shame that gets rooted deep into our system, and it becomes like a lens, like the glasses we're wearing. If I think I'm unlovable, unworthy, stupid, imagine the relationships I'm going to pick from that place. Imagine the self-worth that I do or don't have from there. And then of course I'm trying to hide this as well. So I'm trying to be a chameleon or present myself in a certain way. And none of that ever works.
So we had a conversation last night about shame stacking. How would you explain shame stacking?
So if you think about, we're in a beautiful garden area right now in Nashville. If you think about shame as a root, a weed, so a weed that's really tough to kill, right? So it's gone right into your system and the roots are right down there because it's probably been in there for quite a long time. And you can pour weed oil on, you can get a really strong chemical, you can cut the top off, you can dig a bit and get a bit out, and maybe you get a few months off, but it's going to come back. And you really need to get hold of the whole thing and pull it out of your system. Now, if shame is the root and the weed, you then have your inner critic, which is on top of that, because goodness me, I do not want you seeing my shame. So my inner critic is patrolling this all the time. Be more perfect, be better, work harder, be thinner, be funner in relationship, do what they say, ignore your needs, you're not worthy, put them first, don't say no, you better say yes to everything. That's then your inner critic kind of trying to make you this perfect, in my case, like a good girl and fit in with everything. And then on top of that, like I say, is the surface level perfectionism, but maybe you also see some like anger or resentment coming out, emotional irregularity. Anxiety then lives on top of that. That's your brain, which is anxiety can be defined helpfully as the inability to be in the present moment. You're either coulda, woulda, shoulda-ing over the past, like why did I do that? Why didn't I do that? That's a bit more guilt-based. Or you're catastrophizing into the future, trying to control the outcomes all the time. Again, you're trying to just be on top of every single possible outcome or thing that could happen, because fundamentally, I need to keep you so far away from this horrible shame. So that's like the stack of behaviors. Now, great news, if you get hold of this root, which you can from self-compassion, the book is an amazing place to start. And I'm not just saying that, you've had it, you've been on all the shows with me, people talking about it. This is not an easy read, it's an honest read, and it's designed for people to see themselves in these stories so that as soon as you do that, you go, oh, it's not just me, because shame will always win as long as you think you're the only one and you're isolated and alone. And that in itself is just getting some light into this system, and shame is shriveling and shrinking down, like it really is beginning to kill it properly now. And then the more self-compassion, like you making a choice for yourself today, like you honoring your dream, like you going, actually, do you know what? I do deserve it and I can have some of that. And just taking that one step towards it today like you did, and I'm so proud and happy for you. Like even that is, you're putting like deposits in your system, in your bank account of self-compassion. And that is incredible. That's what is going to alleviate shame. And then when that happens, you don't care. Like I don't, not in a horrible way, I'll never cause harm to another, but I don't mind if someone doesn't like my work. I don't mind if someone doesn't resonate with my content. I don't mind if someone thinks I had something in my teeth, or I always wear black, or I'm not perfect enough, or I didn't do my hair properly today. I don't mind, because I don't have anything that I need to hide from other people anymore. There is nothing within me that I'm afraid that people will see. And I like all of it, which is the most important thing.
And for clarity, self-compassion is the antidote to shame?
Absolutely. Self-compassion is the antidote to shame. It's tricky though, because it's much easier to have empathy and compassion for another, which is why a lot of the time we maybe stay in a toxic relationship pattern, which I know a lot of your followers will have a great resonance with, because we can go, oh, but they had this horrible childhood, or this thing happened to them. And it's really tricky to turn that lens fully onto us, because we're often our own biggest critic as well. So we will self-criticize when we should be giving self-compassion. So it's really important, like a muscle, you've got me in this weighted vest, it's really important to build the muscle of self-compassion.
The other element to stacking of shame, the shame stacking that we were talking about earlier, is the carried shame that we get from caregivers, family members, past relationships, acquaintances. These things get put onto us, they get spoken over us, and we accept it, we don't question it, and it becomes that negative internal voice that we carry with us throughout our life. And so I encourage people to always question that inner voice, ask yourself where it comes from, and then try to pull on that string just a little bit, just to get an idea of where it actually came from, and then what your next step is going to be able to heal that for yourself.
I love that you said that. A great inquiry. Is it yours?
No.
Is it yours that you are bad and that you're unworthy and you're not enough and you're unlovable? Is that yours? Or is that something that's been collected on your, as you say, on your travels and from your family of origin or schooling or friendship, frenemy groups, let's be honest, that you feel that you're having to conform and perform? Is that belief yours? And then when you actually start unpicking, you get to the maybe actual belief that you're carrying, that's when you can start nurturing that like your inner child, and really start putting the self-compassion, or even into the fact that this is a great metaphor, right? You've got me carrying a weighted vest, but I'm carrying a weight right now that I'm not used to. But when you're carrying shame around, you're carrying that around all the time, and someone, you gave this to me. Someone else is giving you all that shame, and yet we're we're shouldering the burden of it every single day, whilst then also trying to appear perfect. I don't mind telling you this is heavy for me. Yeah. There's no shame in that. And you gave this to me, it's not mine. I will be taking it off. But someone gives you shame and then we're taking it off, we're embodying it when we're young especially, or we're in relationships where there's an imbalance of power, or we're more vulnerable at the time. We take this stuff on until quite literally it's a back-breaking, body-breaking, soul-crushing emotion.
But then you also have your own shame that happens on top of that.
Yes.
Because of those previous experiences and that internal driver with that negative self-speak, it pushes you in this direction that, yes, you do have conscious choice to make different choices. This is a subconscious pattern and belief that's happening internally. Yeah. And so you have to be able to cultivate the awareness around that initial shame to be able to even start looking at your own.
Completely. And that is where, and it's like I say, it's not the easiest thing to do, but it's the most essential thing to do. Yeah. And you telling me about your dreams last night, when probably, you know what I'm saying, is a little bit of uncomfortableness, and you're like, who am I to like indulge myself in these dreams? Or
well, to want or need or desire or wish or hope.
Yeah.
Pray.
Shame is the thing telling you that you can't or you shouldn't ask for it or name it, or maybe you'll be further humiliated by telling someone. But it wasn't true. That was never true. We had the most incredible conversation. I couldn't be more proud and pleased for you this morning doing some of that.
Well, it's weird to hear the belief spoken over you in that process. Like I talk a lot, and Alex Hormozi does as well, this lonely period of content creation. Yes. Building a podcast, you're doing something that is abnormal. This is not something that regular everyday people do. I'm still a regular everyday person. Nothing has changed, except that I bring people onto the podcast to have these types of conversations around resilience and growth and change. Another conversation that we had last night was about retroactive shame. And this is one of those things that I've been working on personally. And I recently had on Dr. Mary Catherine McDonald, and she just published a book on joy that's coming out around the same time as your book.
Oh, nice.
And so we're talking about joy and what that really means. And it's something for me that it gets stolen from you when you're much younger. And in the early stages of life, it's just a natural state of being. It's who you are. You show up in the world with all this joy. You haven't been tainted by anything. Everything is beautiful and amazing. You're seeing it for the first time. And ideally, as a parent, you're looking through the eyes of the child and seeing everything for the first time again for yourself, which is a beautiful and amazing experience. But for those of us where it somehow gets stolen due to just problems, issues, concerns, challenges that we face in life, you end up again with those core beliefs. That's who you are. And it's that negative self-speak that you carry on for the rest of your life. It impacts you to such a degree that you can't acknowledge your own accolades or the good things that you've done in life. And you completely miss out on those experiences. So for me, that retroactive joy is, and I'll use going back to school as an example to get my master's degree. That's foolish. Why are you doing this? It's expensive. You're not gonna get anything from it. Oddly enough, I'm not getting anything from it, but it did provide me a lot of experience that I maybe didn't have when I was growing up. So the coaching, the mentorship, the guidance, the leadership, and those were all things that I got to take with me. So for me, I would lay down for meditation. So I'm lying on my back, I've got my binaural beats in, my little neck pillow to extend my neck a little bit and get some release from the tension there. And then hand over your heart, hand over your stomach, knees up, feet plant, so you're grounded into the ground and you're listening to the binaural beats. But then I'm going back to the experiences with the joy that I've allowed myself to experience in the present day and giving that to myself in those experiences. So I'm interacting with the people on graduation day. I'm going across the stage and getting hooded for the degree and then receiving the diploma as well, and then walking through the stage and then interacting with family members and allowing myself to actually have those interactions by going back in time to be able to do that. And so it goes in line with like inner child healing. It's very similar, but this is very directed towards the experience of joy.
I love that. It's so essential to celebrate milestones and wins and just acknowledge it to yourself, because when you do have the attack of the inner critic, when you're coming up to a new challenge, which both of us are right now, and we talked about that, you need to be able to present your inner critic with a dossier of evidence of times you did something and it worked out. And I'm not talking about doing an Ironman, but I'm talking about the time that we met up, how it's going to go. We don't know if we're going to have a free-flowing conversation.
Annalie could be a weirdo.
Exactly. I mean, I am weird, but yeah, like exactly. It could have been really tricky. Or yesterday we all went to that TV filming, the huge studios, went to like live studio audience, like massive show. Haven't done that before. Yeah. And so you have to present your inner critic with times that you've done things. And by that, I mean telling a friend, placing a boundary in with someone that you find tricky, by saying no for the first time and using that muscle. Like, it doesn't have to be things that I think everyone thinks, well, I can only celebrate these huge feats, or rather, I'll be happy when I've got the big house. I'll be happy when I'm a New York Times bestseller. I'll be happy when I'm on that holiday. It's the end of the year. It's like whenever, but every time you're robbing yourself of the present, and you're also invalidating the fact that I met with my friend Jason. It was a beautiful sunny day. I was in Nashville. I've done some great things today. That's all leading towards my success. It's all leading towards the thing that I'm working on right now. And I think I love that you gave that example in that exercise, because going back and celebrating the moments that maybe we felt we weren't worthy of is such an important thing for building your self-compassion and that bank account that we mentioned as well.
What's interesting is it was a big risk for you to invite me to those shows yesterday, because you've never met those people and you've never really met me. We've had conversations, we've done podcast episodes together, and you don't really know a lot about me, but you trusted me enough to be able to join you for those experiences. I'm so grateful and thankful for that, and I have a lot of gratitude, because I'm in that place, again, it's that lonely period where I've been building in my basement, creating the podcast, building it up, trying to get to this place where we hit top 1%. It's 2% now, but I know I can get to top 1% and above.
You will.
And just your support has been so important to me, and I'm gonna get emotional over it, because not a lot of people speak love and life into you, and you're one of those people that does that.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me. You let me get to know you. You've let me.
That was hard.
You lowered the lid. You lowered, we had a big honest conversations, and you've allowed me to get to know you. You've got to know me as well, and I had no fear about us meeting up or you coming on these things. This is, I think people maybe forget or didn't realize, but 5 years ago, my life was in tatters. I started my Instagram in November 2020, and I started it because it was obviously a global situation, and people were being sold things that were going to cause them more harm, a really vulnerable community around mental health. And I was like, I can't have this. I can put out a few things that I use in my private clients, and maybe it will help somebody. And then that has transferred into me having this big social media platform, a book deal coming through from it. I've met my soulmate. I've got a lovely relationship now, and amazing people that I get to meet like you. But I didn't have any of this. It quite literally was my kitchen table with my Grinch that we talk,
the
Grinch. With the
yes.
Grinch. It was me and her at the kitchen table, and most of it still is like this. And there are times when it is so isolating and lonely, and you don't know if you're doing the right thing. But at that time, everything was falling apart, which I now understand was me having to, and at the time I wasn't that grateful for it, but like having to call on my own power. Having to realize that actually it was me, myself, and I was going to get this done, obviously with great people around me. Really, it was me putting myself out there, financially going all in, really taking big risks, which we've spoken about last night, and having to believe that this was the path that was going to lead on to something. But I didn't have the roadmap for it, and you maybe don't in everything now, but we talked about this last night. It's almost, there was just this inner knowing, and especially if I'm doing something for the right reasons, and I know that you do it for the right reasons, and to the point where sometimes both of us get burnt out, or exhausted, or financially we're trying to do something because we're trying to do it to help other people, because both you and I have been in extraordinary amounts of pain, and sometimes both of us still go there because we're still human people. We talked about that yesterday as well. Like, pain is not always out of my life. Like, it does revisit me, anxiety, especially financial anxiety. I have no shame in admitting that. I'm a single mum. I have to look after my daughter and other things, and I take great responsibility in that, and I would love, and please listen, that things become much easier for her and I. But I feel so certain that what I'm doing, especially with this, is going to help so many people reclaim their power by releasing their shame, and they can live a shameless life. And if our conversation now, and if our conversation last night and our friendship is any indictment of that for people looking and listening, like, just tell someone, find someone to tell something to, and let them see you. You let me see you. And I loved it.
Yes, but the hard part about that is you're going to leave.
Yeah.
And that's always the expectation. If I share this with you, if I allow myself to have that level of vulnerability, if I give you something of me, you're going to take it, you're going to weaponize it, you're going to use it against me. Or you're just going to leave because you'll get the ick. Oh, I can't handle that. I don't have the capacity for that. And that's usually the interactions that a lot of people have with one another, is I just don't have the capacity for you. I love you, I care about you, but I don't have the capacity for you. And I think that's where we struggle, because it's really hard to find that safe and trusted person that you can offload some of your experiences to,
without trauma dumping, but it's just, here's an experience and I want you to volley it back to me and have a conversation with me about it and give me your perspective or your experience.
I want to just say though that I don't think I have any of those people in my life now, and I don't think I've ever personally never had the ick from hearing someone open up to me. And just in case that was something that you're working through or thinking about, or somebody else's, I just think it's such an honor. Like, we talked about this because you've heard me talking about this on loads of the shows. One of the reasons the book is called Unapologetic is if someone gets emotional, if they're going to start crying, the likelihood is the first word that comes out of their mouth is sorry.
Yeah.
And to me, that is such a honor to be able to witness someone when they're becoming emotional, remembering a loved one, remembering grieving for a time of their life that they can't have back, a time that they were hurting, a time that someone caused harm or pain to them, healing their inner child, whatever it may be, and me working through something. When someone starts crying and, I'm sorry, I'm like, please, this is such an honor. Not only that, it's your body's most natural response to releasing stress. Like, tears are full of cortisol. When my daughter cries, I say to her, you're so smart, honey. What a great thing to do, to be letting that stress out of your system. No shame there. Dry it up. Boys don't cry, be a good girl, be a big girl, all of these kind of things. And it makes you, then you're in denial of your own emotional state. And again, you're wrong for that. My emotions are too messy. Me, as my whole self, is too much. I'm too messy. I'm too much. The fear of too much, this horrible thing that is always in the ether of being too much that we fear, because that is something that is deeply shameful and means I'm taking from another. And yet no one ever gave us the instruction manual or the list of what being too much is.
You're both too much and not enough.
Right.
At the same time.
Right. Don't be invisible, earn your business, do this, reach for the stars, be purposeful, but don't be too much. Don't take from me, don't take the light off me, because to dumb yourself down a bit, to be a bit smaller, to be a bit dimmer. In relationship as well, it can't be outshining someone else. Your needs are too much. Having needs makes you too much. So instead of that, you put yourself second, you learn about someone else, you study them, you observe them, you embody what the version of you that you think they want you to be instead. And where is your essence then? And how much of your shame has got hold of you in that moment when you're denying your own essence because you want to be something that you're not, because you're not Machiavelli, because you don't have that sense of self, and you have probably been told and taught, and you probably had it revalidated because of good old life kicking you as well to say, you don't, be yourself, but not like that.
So I'm glad that you mentioned essence, because for me, the way I perceive things, everything is energy. We're energetic beings. And I think people would be very curious to know what it actually looks like to release shame. What does that feel like? How do I know that's happening? And then how do I know that I even have shame to begin with?
Yeah.
What is that?
I think people know that they have shame. I think that's the thing, that you're at dinner with friends and you're just like, please don't go near that subject. I'm on the edge. One more thing and it's going to tip me over. And it's never a big thing. It's a tiny thing that it's stubbing your toe on the door. It's not a massive thing that you can't deal with. I think we tend to know the areas, the subjects, the things we don't want to talk about. If you and I were here doing this 5-6 years ago and you were going near marriage and relationships, I would be feeling deeply shameful because my marriage was imploding at that time.
Oh, that's bird shit.
Uh-oh.
All right.
We're in the wild. We're in the wild.
No, I know, but it's fresh.
Oh,
so
right.
I'm like, did I sit in that? It's not smeared.
I'll tell you. I'll girl code you. If it has happened, I'll girl code you.
It wouldn't be the first time. When we moved into our house when I was 9 years old, we had moved from one town about 20 miles to the next. Life is going to be so different, and it was. But as we're moving in, I'm carrying a box and bird shit right on me.
Oh, wow.
On my shoulder. And of course, everybody's, oh, that's good luck. I'm like, doesn't feel like good
Yeah,
luck.
no, right now. It feels like a pretty terrible omen.
A little gross.
Yeah.
Didn't like it. Do not recommend.
Yeah, I'm right in this moment, a terrible omen.
In the very beginning of Unapologetic, there's this beautiful and horrible story of breaking in a Mustang. And just the elements of that story are so powerful. I was hoping you could share a little bit of that with us.
Thank you for talking about that. Yeah, it's when I was doing my training for becoming an EMDR practitioner in particular around the trauma work. And also at that time in my life, so many things myself were in flux. And it was the best depiction of what happens to you when you're vulnerable and in like a narcissistic situation, but also just in so many situations that I realized I had been in when I felt unsafe. And the trauma response that was elicited from my system, because you never get to choose the trauma response, was fawn, which was the one where you placate, where you apologize, where you minimize yourself for the comfort of another. Or that's what I thought I was doing, and I thought I was broken, and I thought I was wrong, or I felt very ashamed for not standing up for myself, or going along with it, or being up for it in other regards, which you can probably guess. And actually that was never true. I was terrified. I was so afraid that fawn was the trauma response that came out of my system to keep me alive. Like, my body, like the Mustang, did the only thing that it could in that moment due to the unbelievable level of terror and fear, which was submit, fawn, placate, apologize, make myself smaller, go along with it. But you carry so much shame because you don't know why you acted like that in that moment, and then you think that's what you're always going to do. So it informs you that you're weak, or you're bad, or you're broken. And if you believe that about yourself, and then you go into your life thinking that about yourself, you avoid life. You don't put yourself in certain situations. Like, you've heard me talk about it this weekend, and you've seen the women agree. There are a lot of times that we people please, but it's fawning because I don't want a situation to escalate. Because I feel that there's something that someone is maybe, could be, we're friends, some guy could come, I could be reading my book, a guy could come and sit down here now and start trying to talk to me, and if I don't want to engage or talk to him, there is a possibility he could get nasty with me, and I don't want that to happen. So the likelihood is I'll be like, no, it's okay, you have this, it's fine, I'm finished, I'm done. The experience will be open for me anyway, but I'm probably quite afraid in that moment of that happening. And it just really helped me, and it is harrowing. You've read the account of it. The video was harrowing, but it was just the most extraordinary example of this beautiful Mustang, this female Mustang, in all of her majesty, her like equine beauty, I think I call it, and just every element of her essence is ripped from her and robbed from her in that moment when...
The beauty, the strength, the power, the capability, the ability.
Yeah.
Agency.
Absolutely, she's a queen in that herd. It's the female, incidentally, the female Mustang is the one that allows, that sort of depicts whether or not you're in the herd or not. They also told us another story that we just saw a naughty dog jump in the lake, but if you're a bit of a naughty horse, like some of the younger bucks or whatever, it's the female that will make you stand outside of the herd, which of course mountain lions are the threat in that community. And it's her that will give you, literally, give you the nod to say that you're welcome back in again, welcome back within the confines of community. So for her to be turned into this quivering wreck that literally hang your head in shame, which is what happens, and I think where a lot of the saying comes from, it was just so much resonance for me for where my power had been taken, and not just power, like my essence. And then not only that, I'd been given all of this shame, and I'd carried all of this shame about why I had behaved in that way, why I didn't stand up for myself, why I wasn't a stronger person, why I'm so soft, why I'm a scaredy cat or whatever. And it was never mine to have.
Opening Apologetic with that story is such a bold and powerful move, but it also sets the stage for what the entire book is going to be about. Each chapter is an un.
Yeah.
Tell us about some of the uns.
So one of them, I think my favorite writing is Unleashed, which is about sexuality, in the pleasure and the shame that we're given around that, sort of what we feel that we need to do, not feeling that you have any right to express needs, not even understanding what's available to you, and then the fear around trying to communicate that and asking for what you want. There's an amazing chapter in there about fertility even, and when you go for many gynecological appointments and tests, very painful, but people tell you it's not painful. That didn't hurt, did it? You don't mind? Do you mind if this person steps in? Yeah, I really do, actually. I really do mind that I'm literally 16 years old is when it starts in the UK to start going to get these tests done, which I understand and appreciate why, but every single time it's hurt me, every time. And I'm nearly 44 and I've had a child. Every time it's been painful. Every time I felt so afraid and my whole body's like this. And you have this rhetorical one-way conversation being told that it doesn't hurt and being told that you're fine and being told that it's fine that these other people are here and looking on, and you just have no agency.
Like, actually, no, I'm having a completely and totally different experience in the moment.
Oh my God, yeah. And I wrote a piece called Coming of Agency. I actually wrote a very long poem that they cut down when I realised again how many times my autonomy and agency had been taken from me and I'd been shamed into accepting it. And that's meant to be a I appreciate the preventative nature of the care and why we need it, but was supposed to be a caring and nurturing environment for my health is a source of deep trauma. And I know for a lot of women it is as well. There's my divorce lawyers in the book, and he talks about weaponizing shame. Yeah. So it's like the thought that this person that was there to love, honor, and obey you is now the perpetrator and persecutor that's going to betray you, and worst of all, they're going to betray you with the most intimate details of your time together, things that you've shared with this person, experiences that you've had, and their lawyers are going to weaponize shame. And he talks about it. He says that he personally doesn't like that. That's why he and I are such good friends, because we didn't do that. Yeah. But he said you have clients that are like, put that word in, make a reference to that place, they'll know what it means. And of course, he also talks about how in some cultures, clients, the other side, have sent intimate photographs to people's family members. And so it's no longer about divorce, it's now my entire family, despite this being my spouse and us being married, my entire family are so ashamed of me that I'm now being ostracized from my entire culture and family as well. Like the shame that's used in that, which I think I said to him, and it's all in the book, do you think people stay in relationships longer than they should because they're so afraid of the shame of the, not just being single, but of how this might be used against them? And he was like, absolutely yes. And he sees a lot of people going back. The whole, why didn't you leave? Why did you stay? Coercive control, again, the fawning in that. Or then what could be used against you? Why didn't you stand up for yourself? Why did you go along with these things? And so all of that's in there. You heard me speak about this yesterday as well in detail, but I used to self-harm. I used to pick at my face until it bled. It's a form of OCD. It was habitual, it was particularly active, is how I refer to it, during the breakdown of my marriage. But I was doing therapy and coaching at the time, as in helping other people. So the shame of that I'm someone that's working in a mental health space and helping other people, but yet I couldn't, at that time, it's a form of sort of addiction and OCD, stop harming myself, felt deeply shameful. And of course you're trying to cover it up, and in my case it's trying to layer makeup on and appear perfect, and despite that my world was falling apart. And I write about that, as you've seen, in such detail, and that was the one that Chrissy was talking about yesterday that was really upsetting for her to read. But I want it to be so honest, because I hope no one watching this is in that throw of addictive and compulsive behaviour as I was. But if you are, I did heal my inside, and now my outside is healed as well. And it is possible to come out the other side of it. But I understand why I was doing it, and where I was full of shame and felt that I had no control of myself. And of course then you're like, oh, you can't even do that, can you? You're such a loser. You can't even stop doing that to yourself. And that narrative, that voice that shame had in the hold of me. And of course, I wasn't particularly resilient at the time. My marriage is imploding. I've got a young kid. I don't have a relationship with my family due to having such a violent childhood. This was a huge thing. But I've waived my own right to anonymity, and my therapist's files and impressions of me at that time are in my book. And I wanted to do that because luckily for me, thankfully for me, I'm so far on the other side of shame. I am completely shameless. I'm totally free, and I feel fantastic now. But I didn't. And the thing that prevented me from getting help for quite a long time was I felt so ashamed of what someone might think of me, including a professional. And so I wanted to put in Pia, my therapist's, impressions of me of that time, to say she never judged me, never once. I said things in her office that I couldn't have imagined ever coming out of my mouth. And she was, like our conversation, witnessed me, did not judge me, held a space for me, helped me unravel some of this, understood why and where a lot of this behavior was coming from. And we built my muscle of self-compassion, including with EMDR and working through the shame. But I wanted that to go in there, because if someone is on the precipice of getting some help, I want them to be encouraged by that, not discouraged and stay further disconnected. Because for as long as you think it's just you, for as long as you think you're too broken, for as long as you feel ashamed of your shame, then you're still under shame's hold and under its trap. And to be able just to break open even just a bit, say it out loud to yourself, to a professional, to a trusted friend, go on an internet forum, change your name, just say something out loud into the ether and find a safe space for that. You're already weakening shame's grasp. And that's why a load of these chapters are about the unconditioning, the unshackling of your shame, the unlearning of all of these things that we're given throughout our life, to really go, actually, do you know what? I don't accept that anymore.
What's interesting is, as we sit here, I can feel it, that you live shameless. This isn't just something that you're saying. It's not just something that you thought was going to be kitschy in a book and throw it in there and, it's going to sell 1 billion copies and people are going to love it because I did it and it's got all these unapologetic, unleash, unshackle. This is something that you've lived. This is your personal experience that you've very vulnerably laid out on the pages of the book, Unapologetic. And it's a lifestyle, it's a way of being. And you can feel that when we're sitting here just talking with each other, because you can always sense when somebody is speaking from a place of shame. You can always feel that energy. You can hear it in the tonality in their voice. You can hear the strain. Sometimes they'll get hoarse, or you can tell by the vein in their neck starts going off.
It's amazing you say that, actually, because you just reminded me. I'm quite a spooky woo, a bit witchy. And your throat chakra, obviously, is the one, anyone that looks at chakras is here. And I used to get I would lose my voice.
Yeah.
And that's
hives.
Literally, I'd get a cold, whatever, but my voice would be the first thing to go every time. And it's because I wasn't speaking my truth, because I was holding back, because I was holding things in. And interestingly enough, or not, the universe, like, my voice is the thing, speaking things out, speaking my truths out on social media, speaking my truths out in interviews and podcasts. And yeah, absolutely, putting my truth out in there. And you and I have got a few grey hair and I've got a few scars.
I mean, I have no hair.
There's a couple in the beard. But you and I we've talked about our collective experiences, and I really want for people to, we talked about this as well, there can be moments when you think, I wish I'd had that. We talked about this last night. I wish I'd known that when I was 20 something, but actually this is my path. I had to go on this path. I had to have these experiences, these relationships, these things happen to me. Would I choose some of them? No, because it caused me a great deal of physical pain a lot of the time, emotional, mental anguish and other things. But I am able to hold space and be with clients and sit with their pain, and I think create a safer container because of the things I've been through. And that's the greatest honor of my life, is doing that work, as well as being Amber's mom. It's the best thing ever. But I think that me pouring that so openly into those pages, now that I'm on the other side of it, is a really amazing compass for people to be able to, that can be their pivot point, is go, actually, wow, this isn't my story, but I see pieces of myself in all of these stories. Like my clients that have been brave enough to go in there and talk about things in such visceral, raw detail that happened to them. The shame they felt, the circumstances, the expert interviews, and then my memoir that feeds throughout the whole thing. Like, someone referred to it as part memoir, part manual, and I love that because I just know that on one read of it, you are impacted. Like Chrissy yesterday with the manuscript was covered in makeup, and she said she was like she said it was the best book she'd read in the last 10 years, which is so amazing to hear.
Makeup, tears, and coffee stains.
Because she'd had an entire relationship and experience with the book. And I love that because that's what I wanted to do. Yes, it's my name on the book, but to me, and actually it's really small, especially on the spine, and I wanted that on purpose because I want this to be a movement. I want people to read this book and just know, if I can do one thing, that someone is able to unshackle some of their shame even as a result of this book, speak to someone, just say it out loud to themselves, this thing happened to me and I did not deserve it. Have some more understanding of the times that you fawned and it was never you and you were never at fault. Even that, like that, then suddenly flushes into this feeling of self-compassion, and shame loses every time. That's what I want. I want to see this book on the tube. I want to see it on tables at the beaches and in the parks. I want to see people with it. Yes, I'm going to stop apologizing for my essence. And it's not about being like ballsy and harsh or cocky. If that's your energy, then cool. It's not mine. That, like, I'm a little bit mischievous and I'm happy and I'm optimistic, but I'm not hard. Like, I'm quite namaste, and that's how I choose my peace and how to live my life, and I'm very open with it, with a fairly closed group, and that's how I like to run my life, and it keeps my mental health in check. But I want for people to, for their own life, just to liberate themselves from having this book, and I really, with all of my soul, believe that's what's going to happen.
I believe it too.
Thank you, babe.
I'm curious, with distribution of the book, what that actually looks like. Are you going to take like a handful of copies or a case and do what other people have done, where they sign a bunch of them, but then they go around state to state or bookshop to bookshop, and they might leave a few copies laying around at a coffee shop or something like that for people to just find out in the wild?
We've got a couple of events. So we're here in Nashville now. This is April. I go to New York tomorrow for 24 hours, and then I'm back in May, just in New York because of times of mummy life as well. So I'm going to be in New York from the 10th to the 14th of May, and we've got a couple of events there. I am doing a signing at Barnes & Noble on 5th on the release day, which is exciting, at midday. So there will be signed copies, and yet wherever I can get myself around, particularly then. And then I think there's going to be a lot more call for me. I really hope to come back and do a lot more probably around September, October. I'm doing one in Lisbon, in Portugal, at Salter Books. I love Lisbon. It's a really amazing independent bookshop as well. Their mantra is buy books from a bookshop, not a billionaire. Which I
love it.
And love to support them. They're awesome. And I'm also doing a couple of big events in London as well. But yeah, I want to go in anywhere and just be able to be available to people as well. The reason I wrote this as well is I appreciate that to have a session with me, probably with you, there's an element of privilege to that, right? It's a cost. So either you're in a company where they pay for me to come in and do work with you, or you earn enough to pay for me, because I never charge a veteran, that's how I work. That's always pro bono, but everyone else gets charged the same, and I get that's a privilege. Or just even location, can you see me? So I wanted to create something that I knew would be genuinely helpful and try and remove the privilege. And that's the same thing for meeting people and doing events. I feel very passionately, and I've spoken to publishers about that. I really want to be accessible. It can't just be behind closed doors. So I am manifesting that happens, and some nice, huge ticketed talks, and just get to see people and meet people, and yeah, make this movement just the beginning.
I think it's also important to recognize that shame isn't just limited to a particular set of people, demographic, that this is something that goes across all walks of life and challenges and experiences from billionaires on down.
Oh yeah, often some of the wealthiest people I know, very successful. I've worked with number of self-made billionaires. They actually...
Why should I pity you? You're a billionaire.
Right, and they minimize their own experience and shame because they'll say something like, but I have nothing to complain about. Literally, I'll get their whole story, which is heartbreaking. Isolation, betrayal, addiction, loneliness. Oh my God, so lonely. So lonely. Most of the really wealthy people that I've worked with and spoken to have got some of the loneliest, most heartbreaking stories, devoid of love, of warmth. And then they say themselves, but I have nothing to complain about. Yeah. No, I always had a meal on the table. I always had a roof over my head, maybe more than one roof. But
those are the metrics
but that prevents them from coming to get help because they feel they will be judged. They feel that they will be judged and they don't have anything to complain about. I did have an experience once myself with someone, and I was working through some things. I just recently moved into my house where I am now. And I remember it was a coach who also busted confidentiality as well with somebody else. This is not a great example. But I remember she was saying to me, think about someone that is homeless, what would they feel about you? And I was like, you were shaming me about something. It could be a helpful paradigm shift, but I give away a lot of things to help people that are underprivileged. I do a lot of work with charities that I'm associated with, and I'm very humble, but yeah, I felt like and so unfortunately I can see why people the reason I'm saying that, I can see why sometimes people maybe aren't forthcoming to get help because you think I should be able to figure this out for myself, or I've got it so lucky, or I will be judged.
There's another thing, my ADHD brain. Yeah, it's all over the place, unfortunately.
I like it. So, babe, we have had a great time.
We have. It's been a lot of fun. But the story of shame often gets retold over and over again to diminish the effect or impact on the person that put that shame on you. So shame on you.
Shame on you.
So for people that have lived in that experience where there's constantly the story that's being told year after year, decade after decade, family gathering after family gathering, and you've had to live with that, and it's almost a denial of your own reality and your own experience, because that's not how I took it, that's not how I feel about it. I actually have a great deal of shame and pain and anger and resentment towards that experience, and you make me relive it over and over and over again. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, and then you're told something like, oh, you're so emotional. Oh,
don't be so sensitive.
You're too sensitive. Yeah, you're too sensitive, you're too emotional. That is interesting because I think what I've learned becoming older is, there's this saying, I'm probably going to get it wrong, but you'd never take directions from someone that hasn't left home. So I'm not going to listen, and again, I'm not really rude, but I'm not going to take on or take in or receive guidance, criticism, information, advice from someone that has never put themselves in anywhere near the kind of situations that I've been in. And so maybe an energetic boundary in that sense, that if someone can be talking and I might say, this is a little good tip, you just go, that's interesting. Yeah. I acknowledge what you've said. I'm not saying if I agree or I don't, and that's the end of it. That's interesting. That's it. It's not for me, it's not for you, it's outside of myself. So I would say that can be helpful, especially in the family dynamic, because you're saying it's been handed down and maybe you can't avoid certain situations or get away from this person. But there are also times that if it is important for you to be able to say, hey, actually, that you might find that amusing, but I actually find that very hurtful. I think most of the time people are doing the best they have with what they've got. I don't think, thankfully, and I have heard some of the wicked things you can imagine from clients of mine, like things that I never thought were possible, just beyond appalling. Thankfully, I think that's the limited few people that are genuinely very wicked. I think most people are masking their own shame. The people that are the most offensive are the most hurt, we know that. The people that don't want you to get near their shame are going to deflect and project. And then there are some people that are deeply unskillful, and me and my girls have got like one rule for life in the friendship group, which is don't be a dick. There are some people that are massive dicks as well. And so I would say if you can't manage it, if you can't put an actual boundary in, you can always put an energetic boundary in, which is just simply that you're not somebody that I would come to for guidance and advice, therefore you're not someone that I'm going to allow your criticism into my space. But yeah, the generational shaming, to deflect, to stop somebody looking at themselves and the harm they may have caused. I would hate to be that person, because honestly, they are running. They are sprinting and
Always
they are running. Right. They're trying to do anything and everything all at once, just so they never ever have a second to be with their feelings. They're constantly involved in everyone's business, doing everything, the hostess, the this, the that, the other, the coach of the little league team. They're just doing everything all at once just to never ever be alone with themselves. Yeah. And I have no shame, as we know, but also I have no issue in saying I really love my own company. Like, I have love for myself, I have deep love for myself. So it's bliss. I have no fear. It is bliss. I love my boyfriend dearly. He's amazing. Yeah. But if our relationship didn't work out, I would be okay. Be very hurt for a while, but I know I like myself enough that I'd be all right on my own. I did it for ages, absolutely ages. Well, self-worth, self-trust, and self-esteem. Yeah. And those are things that you had to build, you had to cultivate. Totally. But I really had to build self, and then that led on to self-love as well. And I really love my own company. I know myself now. I always say, do you know and trust yourself? Yeah, I love that. It's that sales, they bring in that sales comparison. Do you have to know and trust them? It's the same thing with yourself. Yeah, and my answer is 100% yes, because I've done the shame, I've worked on it, but I allowed myself to get to know myself. And actually when you do that, I really fundamentally believe, and you speak to this so beautifully in your work, it sets this like invisible benchmark, this new level of what I will allow in and what I won't. Because when I didn't love myself, when I hadn't spent time with myself, when I was doing the things to avoid being alone with myself, guess what I was accepting? Fucking scraps from friendships or frenemies, from romantic interests or whatever. Like, that was not serving me. Whereas now it's quite apparent what's going to be a fit for me and what's not. You and I are great friends because we're authentic, we have big conversations, we get on, we have really similar outlook on things. And there are plenty of people, as you know, in our world, that is not the case, and quite early I now get a tell on that, because it's just that just doesn't feel good to me. Well, this is the proof that you're playing in the wrong pool. Yeah, it doesn't feel good. You don't even know it when you're in it until you have this type of experience with friendship, and this is amazing. Completely. And I feel seen, I can say whatever I want, I can go as deep as I want in terms of conversation, and you're like, and you're still going to sit here. We'll go there. Yeah, and I can tell you anything, and you're still going to sit here. You're not going to get up, you're not going to shame me, you're not going to go, whoa, my God, you're awful to be around, and what a dick you are, whatever, or I can't believe you would do that, and this is appalling, and none of that. And just being able to be so relaxed. But that, for me, definitely the biggest and most important piece of work was the being happy alone with myself. And I write about that as well in the book, like having experienced betrayals. I write a lot about romantic betrayal, about frenemies, again, the idea of the cuckoo's a bird we have in England, and the cuckoo bird never makes its own nest. It steals the nest from another. And then the thing with that is, when a storm comes, it doesn't know how to repair it because it never built it. And then it doesn't really fit it properly because it never made it. So it's, I need to go on to another one, and then another one. Whereas the bird that the nest got taken, you're like, that's really annoying, to be frank, but I know how I made it, so I'll do it again. And everything in my life, I know how I made it. It would annoy me, I'd be a bit tired, I'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake. But I know that I did it, and I can do it again. And like with this book, I did that, I wrote that, I can do it again. All the content, the videos that we do, the work with my clients, like I did that. I can keep doing it, I can do it again. It's that authenticity and that credibility as well, I think.
You've given yourself the evidence.
Yeah, yeah.
I know that no matter what, I'll be okay.
Exactly.
Because I always am.
Exactly. Can I ask you a question?
I don't think so. No.
What's the either biggest thing or not like biggest thing, what's the thing that you'll take away from our time or these conversations these couple of days?
I think there's a lot of you saw my notes app. There's a lot of takeaways, and you're such a brilliant and amazing person with all the things that you've created. And like I said earlier, I'm just grateful to be allowed to participate in your experiences of your accomplishment because you built this, you did this, you created that. And you had a network of people that helped move you along through that process. But this was very much your idea, your growth, your experience, your drive, your ambition. And that's amazing. So many people don't have that, or they never bring it to fruition because they don't know how, or they're afraid to take that first step into uncertainty. And so, like me, I took that first step, but now I don't know how to go anywhere else. I haven't gotten there yet. And so it's nice to be able to connect in this way because it gives me a piece of my own dream back.
Oh, I love that.
That I really wasn't, am I allowed to have that? Is it okay for me to have that? Because I'm very much living in my old experience, living in my old home, but that was a home I built off of the paycheck of being a police officer. That's not my role anymore. My role is podcaster, content creator, and I've had to wire that in as part of something that I do. You know, videographer, you take on all these new skills and you allow yourself to grow, develop, and evolve by diving into all these different online courses. You find the free stuff, right? And you dig into that first, and then you find all these people that are doing the thing, Alex Hormozy, Layla Hormozy, and you just, it's like Neo in the Matrix, right? Yeah. You get plugged in and you take it all in and then you deploy it in real time. And I talk about this all the time, like you have to self-educate. You have to put yourself in that position because you're the only person that's truly limiting you in your life experience, in your capabilities. You are so capable. You have to become who you're capable of becoming, who you're meant to be, or you will live a life of quiet desperation. You will be angry, resentful, and you will have contempt towards everyone and everything in your life, and you will see yourself as a victim. So it is your job and your duty to become who you're meant to be. But it's people like you that show me that I'm not only capable of more, but I can also achieve it.
And you deserve it.
Because we're experiencing it in real time together.
Yeah, and you deserve it.
Have to wire that in.
Let's start building that muscle.
These are the pieces, yeah, and it is a muscle that you have to, a lot of this stuff, joy, it's a muscle. You have to flex it, you have to condition it, you have to hone it, you have to give yourself the joy. You have to be able to be present in this moment and listen to the birds around us. Look how green the leaves on the trees are. The wind coming across and the smell of the flowers in the area. It's like there's so many different things that are happening. This is joy.
And I'm allowed and I'm safe enough to experience it. I feel safe enough to be able to let myself experience this moment of bliss, this absolute bliss point. I am safe and I'm able to relax and be in this moment with someone, and I'm allowed to dream into that.
Yeah. And so I thank you for that.
My pleasure. I like the fact that you're becoming more
Unapologetic.
It's worked.
I believe that it has. And I look forward to seeing what you create next. I know you've got a lot of things on the horizon. Are you willing to share any of your new dreams that you have?
Yeah, of course. My biggest dream is to get this launched to help the right people and where she needs to be. I really want to do more talks and in-person things. I believe I'll be back in the States a lot doing that because I think the book is amazing, and then I want to bring together the community of people that need to find their people on the back of this, who are maybe outgrowing friendships, relationships, and are feeling a bit lost and want to find their people. I really need to have some time with my daughter without pressure, which we talked about last night. I need to have a bubble around us. I'm aware of her childhood. There's like I explained to her when she was little that you can feel two things at once. I call it like happy sad.
Yeah.
And there's a happy sad feeling in me right now that she's getting so much bigger and I'm so proud of her. And there's like a little feeling of sadness that she is getting so much bigger and I'm not going to be her whole world much longer, nor should I be. You know, it moves on to friendships and other things. And so I really want to, while that's available to me, cherish and be in that time with her, have a bit of a bubble. And then, yeah, there are going to be some more projects coming up, probably some more written word. There's already a bit of a demand for something after this, which will flow on very nicely for anyone that when they read the book, it actually ends on my relationship, my current relationship, which I don't talk about that openly, but been together for nearly 2 years. It's not like it's a new thing, so I just keep that fairly private.
I think it's good to protect it.
Yeah.
And I don't know that enough people do. And obviously it's up to the individual, the couple, and what they decide to do with their relationship. But when you're in the public sphere like that, there's just so many different things that can or could happen.
Exactly.
And so why wouldn't you protect that?
Yeah, and it's honestly such a place of joy for me and him that it's a really nice, it doesn't have to be involved in the public side of my life. But the book ends there on that. And so I have, and I say, it ends on him and it says, if I'd settled for anyone before him, I would have been settling for scraps. If I'd gone for anyone before him, I would have owed myself another apology. That's how the book ends. And it's true. And I would have sabotaged this relationship if I hadn't worked through my shame. When he's a good man, he's such a good man that it would have illuminated and triggered me to a point that I would have found a way to sabotage I
think that's what we call the ick.
I would have just found a way to probably, I don't know, be a gremlin or something, but I would have been like, no, I would have just moved away from that because it would have been like being able to relax and feel that I deserved it. I would have felt undeserving of his goodness, if you like, because shame told me I was bad and broken. So I would have found a way to sabotage what is an incredible relationship with an unbelievable person. But yeah, the book ends on that. So there's something, I think, coming around the joy and possibility when maybe you're looking down the lens in your 40s and beyond about things perhaps not working out as you thought they would. And what's the hope after that? So the stories and story of hope after that.
I think it's important for people to acknowledge and recognize we're both over 40. I'm on the other end of 40 at this point, and there's nothing stopping me from growing, developing, changing, and evolving. And I look at it like this. I don't know how much time I have on the planet, but let's say I get another 40 years. That's a lot of time. When you look in the past and you think about childhood, 0 to let's say 21, you're barely a functional human. And then 21 to 25, you're trying to become a functional human. And then 25 to 35, you're starting to figure some things out.
Yep.
Maybe you get your master's degree and you do some other things and you've had a couple different career paths. But you haven't become, again, who you're capable of becoming. You haven't fully embodied yourself. You might not even know yourself. And I really feel like when you hit 40, it's not a midlife crisis, but it is an awakening.
Definitely.
And you're awakening to who you really are. And that acknowledgement and that awareness is what allows you to then take all of the skills that you've cultivated over the decades and then use that to propel yourself forward at a massive rate, at a much higher speed than you would have been able to do in your 20s and 30s.
Definitely. I've also been much more able to accept, embrace, and love all of my eccentricities. Like, I'm a conflict emotion, right? I'm a paradox emotion. There's so many things that I'm the sum of many parts, and you laid them all out, it'd be like, this is insane. Like, it doesn't go together. But that's who I am. There's different bits of me that, and I love and embrace and cherish, and I'm proud on each and every bit of it, that it was like a jigsaw that the pieces didn't match. And for ages I felt shamed and wrong and bad about that. And like, why can't I be like other people or feel like this or whatever? And why can't I be happy with that? And one of the biggest criticisms in a previous relationship was, you're never satisfied. You're never satisfied, Annalie. And you're like, do you know what? No, I'm not. Like, and that's not in a, I want a new handbag way. Never. It's, I want to learn more. I want more experience out of life. I'm very good with being present, but like, just, yeah, you're right. I'm like I think I'm a natural learner, and I love that. It makes me feel alive. It puts me into flow, like uncovering things and just, yeah, being, that to me is being fully in life. So
the problem is that feels like a threat to the other person, to their nervous system, because again, it's that
they're not evolving.
Unspoken expectation. You're doing all these things, but I'm not doing that. And they'll even say it. They'll say the words, but they're not acknowledging exactly what they're saying. It's, I can't do what you're doing, or I don't want to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
Therefore, this is actually an incompatible relationship.
Yeah.
And so if we would just change the language around that and step back, zoom out, allow yourself to observe it and say, we're just incompatible.
Yeah. And that's no
You're not an
one's
evil
fault.
person. You're not a bad person.
And it's
I don't
no-
need to make you bad for me to feel good.
Yeah.
We're just incompatible.
And no one has to be wrong. If anything, it's a gift.
Yes.
That's a gift. It's okay. We probably had a good experience. It was great for a time. We've now at this point in our lives that actually this isn't serving either of us. And that's okay. Thank you so much for what we've had. Let's take the gift of that and move on. But yeah, it's the shaming that comes with the... You talked about it beautifully last night. I wonder if you could speak to that again. Like the sense that if you can change the other person rather than look at you and get them to change, then in some way that proves your worthiness as well.
Yeah, that you're worthy of love, worthy to receive it.
Yeah, so they've changed and moved away from their essence, possibly because of some kind of shaming, let's be honest, or some other kind of
It's
behavior.
absolutely that.
Yeah.
And then it's those insecure attachment styles that I've shifted away from. I don't want to put a lot of emphasis on attachment styles anymore. I think it's a benefit in the very beginning to understanding like your own growth.
Yeah.
Attachment styles, wonderful. How can I use this information for me to better
Great.
understand me, who I am, where I'm going, what I'm doing, the why behind why I'm doing it, how I integrate myself into relationships with other people without having to label other people because I read this book and here's all the words and here's all the labels and this is you, so now you have to read this book.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I don't have to deploy anything in my life because, well, I went to therapy and my therapist is doing all the heavy lifting for me, and then I don't do any of the exercises when I'm at home, but I know all the language and I know how to weaponize it. And so that's not building and cultivating healthy relationships. So I encourage people, please use that information for yourself so that you can grow for yourself. But then all it does is allow you the empathy. You increase your level of empathy to look at other people and put yourself in their shoes and say, of course you would be like that. Of course this is the experience we're having. Of course you're a little bit avoidant in this experience because I can see in your background, because we've had these conversations where your challenges were, and it makes sense that would happen instead of shaming the avoidant for being avoidant.
Yeah.
We're not acknowledging their own pain and shame in that experience. Don't allow for it. And so we have to do more of that.
I love that. I love how you've spoken to that.
I get a little heated about that. It's one of those topics online that everybody just feeds into in the comment section. And it's so limiting, not just self-limiting, but it's limiting overall in every aspect of your life because it's going to feed into every area of your life and it becomes the limitation, the barrier, and the wall
Yeah,
to the connection you desire.
people treat it like a destination rather than perhaps an early diagnosis of which you can then change.
Yeah.
It's, exactly you said, and there's a lot of shaming around it. And if someone's new coming to that work and then you feel this, this tribal, if you're not like me, then you're wrong, that would be really terrifying. And I've spoken about it on your podcast. Like, I'm definitely a reformed avoidant and I'm the evil person in the room apparently, but the reason I was avoidant, everyone, was because I had the most awful childhood of systemic violence at the hands of my father, my mother colluding and not being a safe person from when I was really young, and love was pain to me. And so it was never that, and also I felt unworthy. I was so riddled with shame. So it was never that I was a cruel person. It was that the moments that I was coming towards deep intimacy or vulnerability, it was so difficult for me that I needed to just take time out to decompress. I found it literally overwhelming. I've managed now to work through that and find techniques and name things like my shyness, for example. I talked to you about that last night with Alex. On date 3, I said to him, which I never would have done before, by the way, I'm quite shy in these situations. I know it might come off as me being a bit cold. Just bear with me and I'll start to thaw, and thankfully he loves to chat, so it was all fine. But that was something that I learned to say. I never would have said that before, and I hadn't had that awareness. But yeah, being vilified for something that has come from deep hurt, it's not helpful.
Yeah. I agree. So for everybody who's been listening, especially our anxious attachers that are out there, we love you guys and we want what's best for you, but we recognize where the challenges lie. And one of the greatest gifts that you're ever going to give to yourself is to understand your attachment style, once again, to understand yourself, to know and trust yourself, and then to be able to pull on that string and be able to understand where the shame lies within you so that you can become unapologetic in your own life. Annalie, tell everybody how to get the book, how to connect with you, and how to work with you.
Thank you so much. So the book is available everywhere, Amazon, Target. Barnes & Noble. And if you're around New York, come and get a signed one. Please come and see me. I'd love that. I'd love to meet as many people as possible. It's available over the UK, Australia. There's a German translation going out as well. So yeah, it's going to be available everywhere from the 13th of May. And then come and see me on Instagram. There's 310,000 really lovely souls actually on my page. We have very few dicks. So and people really help each other in the comments, much like yours. People are there to help and support one another in a difficult time. We do a lot of things around like betrayal and self-trust. So please come and find me on Instagram at Annalie Howling. And yeah, come and watch more things that Jason and I can maybe do together. Who knows? Let's manifest an in-person retreat.
Yeah, we're going to do a retreat.
Yes,
we are.
That's
going to happen next for sure.
Yes, we are.
Are you going to start a podcast?
Maybe. I've been toying with it and putting it off. I think, like I said, I just need to get the book like launched and birthed into the world. And I really am craving time with my girl. But actually, I think there is a lot of conversation to come on the back of this. And if the world would like it and if I can be of service, I would love to do that.
Have you recorded the Audible version yet?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that going to be released at the same time?
Yes, it will, yeah. And it's me reading it.
That's so good.
Yeah, it's me reading it. And actually one of my really good friends, who's an actress, very famous actress in the UK, she's doing the voices of the clients. So you get the change between the two of us. But yeah, it's me reading the audiobook as well. And that was a great experience.
We discovered on this trip that we both listen to things at 2.0 speed.
We're both psychopaths, yeah.
Apparently.
I got into your car and I was like, you're the only person. Yeah. You're like,
I understand every word.
Yeah, I do. You're the only person that I know that does that. Like Alex, like my boyfriend, will be like,
what are you doing?
Listening to
Why?
Yeah, especially with so when you write, one of the things they advise you to do is read because it gives you more words. But this is non-fiction, obviously it's my story, but I read a lot of fiction, which I didn't usually give myself permission to do because I had to be learning. And so I've been listening to all manner of things, including all of this like kinky dragon porn and everything that's going around now and all the romantasy stuff. And like that on 2.0 is quite something.
That's intense.
Yeah. Good though.
That's hilarious.
Thank you. Let's do a little selfie.